I'm a long-time Asimov fan. I'm one of my favorite authors. The genetic dynasty, what an idea, man. I mean, how it fits like a glove into this whole scenario of a galactic empire. So tell me how this idea came to be.
I would like to think that Asimov himself would have come up with that idea if he'd continued writing, but it came about because of necessity. The first book is really a collection of short stories that Asimov was writing. He never intended it to be a series, and there are very few characters that continue from story to story. I think Salvor Hardin is in 2 stories, Gail Dornick's only in 1, Harry himself is only in 1. Well, technically he's in 2. We knew that a straight anthology was never going to fly with the people we were pitching it to. The economics didn't support it. And a lot of big events in Asimov stories happen off screen. The empire falls off screen.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's just not going to fly on a TV show. I mean, we have to see it happen. Yeah. So I had to come up with a way to present a consistent face for the Empire. They're kind of background characters. Most of the emperors don't even appear on screen in the books. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, if we're telling a story that's going to span seasons and centuries, I don't want to just keep casting a new actor to play a new emperor each season. I want some continuity. And I thought, what if they're all clones of one another? So it's the same actor playing them, but they're playing different characters. And then that led to all sorts of nature versus nurture elements of the story.
You just open like a brain, like multiple branches of storytelling, right?
Exactly. So it seemed to work and map well onto what Asimov had created.
The Emperor's Peace.
Guys, I'm a huge Asimov fan, since I was a kid. I like the genetic dynasty and the dynamics between you guys. That's a whole new idea that I love so much, and you just nailed it. I'm not even asking any questions.
Cool.
Just appreciation moment.
I appreciate
Amazing,
it.
Lovely, thank you.
Well, we're enjoying it too.
Yes.
We're having a great time. We find the characters really interesting and complicated and layered. So we're glad that you're into. You see the second season?
5 episodes into. Cool. I'm so totally into it, and I love to keep track of the subtle differences between days. I know that you like to do this, right? They're different people, right?
Yeah.
Amongst themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the truth. I think this day, he fully believes himself to be an individual. He doesn't buy the idea that he's just one of the clones. He's over the clones and all about himself and all about the destiny that he can write for himself. And I think the relationship with Demerzel is very unique this season because he sees her as more than an advisor and, the woman who raised him. He sees her as his soulmate, lover, the much more physical intimacy between them, which I think, is an interesting thing to contemplate. Like, what is that about?
Where did it begin? How did we end up here? I think the whole game between them, the power struggle, kind of like who's actually leading who, where was it, whose idea was it?
I say in the first episode that you initiated it.
Wow.
Well, but maybe you were very open. You were inviting that to yourself. But all that is so, it's fun. It's fun to play with. And especially having season 1 under, kind of like that you've seen them already kind of clash, and they are like, either of them, they want to have the last word, and they know each other so well, they kind of like, they're able to hurt each other and kind of like, and then building upon that kind of.
Yeah, right. Nuances are what's interesting.
Yeah.
Who are you? The Dawn clone, obviously.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Great show.
Thank you. The genetic dynasty for me was one of the greatest new ideas. Right? It fits perfectly, right? And I love that there are subtle differences between all the generations of the brothers, right? But especially Dawn, I think Dawn shows a little bit more distinctions between the generations because every generation is new problems and new expectations, new pressures. So how do you think about that?
That's a good way of putting it. I feel like Dawn, he seems less hardened than the others, regardless of which Dawn I play. And in season 1, I play a few, and in season 2, I play a few. He just seems to have more empathy than the others because he's not hardened by the position that his brothers have. I mean, taking on the Middle Thrones is not an easy job for anyone. Yeah. I think when you have that much responsibility, it kind of hardens you. And I think Dawn is more empathetic and more gentle and the softer of the 3 because he hasn't had that opportunity or that that challenge yet. I'm sure as soon as he takes on that responsibility, he hardens quite quick.
Being in the position of like you're gonna inherit the galaxy.
It's not a small job. Yeah.
No small job, right?
We are Empire!
Hi, Leah, how are you?
Hi, I'm very well. How are you?
This show is very difficult to navigate through because, based on the books, the story spans centuries. So you meet characters for a while and then they're gone, but you got to jump ahead in the story. How do you like that?
Yeah, it's pretty cool to be able to, do that sleeping thing, cryo sleep, and just kind of turn up in another era. I mean, I feel like that'd be a cool thing to do now. I'd like to see what, through the year 3000 is like.
Well, I don't, do you? At this point, I don't know if I want to see the...
Can they read the future?
Another thing that comes born off screen is the second foundation. I mean, on books.
Yes.
And it's kind of like a Deus Ex Machina thing. Oh, guess what? There's a second foundation. You're in trouble. There's a second one. And now you're building it. We're seeing this as well. This comes into the same thought process, right?
Yeah, they just appear out of whole cloth, literally as a Deus Ex Machina. We have no idea, how they appeared or how they were founded, how they were created. We, by necessity, had to tell that story. So we're seeing some of the early stages of the formation of the second foundation in season 2, which is a story that Asimov completely eluded and something that we had to fill in the gaps for.
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes already. From the start, I love your character. Oh my God, Paulie. I just want to sit down and have a drink with him.
Man,
really,
a big drink.
Totally. I love that, we're finally tapping into one of the most interesting aspects of this story, because I'm an Asimov reader, and that is the religious aspects that the Foundation takes very early on, because it's like the Harry Seldon's calculation that it will be a natural perspective of society, as seeing him as a godlike figure, as a prophet, and the Foundation become a cult. And that will be protective to the Foundation. How do you see all that and being in this?
No, that's been a joy because the second crisis is upon us, see, and this crisis at this particular time is the religious crisis. It is the idea of what faith is and where faith takes us. And it questions those bigger questions of the existence of the God itself. Again, what I love about it is the twist in it, because it's the reality. Religion is being sold to the individuals because it's a product of just selling to attract more and more disciples to this. But what they're really selling is progress, not a religious form. That's what Paulie always been fighting against. This is not a religion.
Because Paulie doesn't believe in it.
No, he doesn't
it's a strategy, right?
Yeah. He doesn't necessarily, but he's been told that's the best way we can sell it, though.
Right,
we can save people. And I love that. I think that's a really, really beautiful way of doing it. In a way, he is a salesman.
Yeah, a magician, right? With the fire coming out of his hands. And
that's right. Another lovely bit is he said, look, we can turn this ugly metal into gold. And he does it. And he shows us it's done, but he does it with matter. So everything is a possibility. And it's through science that they are finding this progression, And that's a joy. That's been the joy to play it. That it's not supernatural or it's not spiritual. Yeah. It's far more realer in that respect. I have faith in Foundation.
The concept of, human society to the whole galaxy. And it's awesome, like in scientific point of view of science fiction, but it's really talking about us right now, in the past, and the cycles of history. So what do you think I think it's more important messages that the Foundation, as the series, brings to the viewers?
I think ultimately, like the whole idea of human beings and societies, we are all connected. History repeats itself, and we need to learn from the things that have happened in the past, prepare ourselves emotionally and practically for whatever's going to come, ahead, to be ready for whatever's going to happen, and to work as a team. I think a big part of this season as well is like Salvor and Gail, they work as a team. They're really, really together. It's something that should be definitely drawn out on a bigger scale and applied to just life in general. I think it'd be nice.
Right. I mean, and their dynamics have cooperation. I think that's a key point of the whole story. It's not about just one person or an individual, right? But
It's not about an individual, and once it does become about that, things can get a bit sticky, particularly with psychohistory.
What else the powerful messages that you think the Foundation brings to the new audiences of today?
I would argue it's more relevant today than even when Asimov was writing it. Here's the irony. Asimov was writing in a Cold War environment, post-World War II. When we started season 2, that wasn't the case, and suddenly we find ourselves in a post-Cold War environment once again. And I never could have imagined Russia would have invaded Ukraine, that's something that would be happening, that NATO would be challenged. And I'm just constantly surprised how topical
the cycles,
an evergreen, these cycles are, and how topical Foundation is, and that's really, we owe a lot to just Asimov's prescience as a writer.
What he does do with his novels, as much as I think we do with this production, is to ask those bigger questions politically. Because not forgetting that he actually wrote this in the mid-50s after the Second World War. So the idea of that particular time, what fascism was, is that right for humanity? Is the idea of socialism, is that right for humanity? Or capitalism, or even communism? So these questions he's asking himself. So if you really look at the world at that particular time, what Asimov's done is he's blown it up and he's spread it around the universe. So he's created these factions of these different worlds with different ideas. But what I do like about it as well is that he doesn't actually make it judgmental what is right and wrong. He makes us as the audience, as much as the reader, to make those decisions for ourselves. And I think that's good. And that's the choice that we have to make as human beings. What is right for us as humanity? It's not a light piece in that sense. It's as much as it is scientifically sci-fi. Those worlds that we take us on this journey, and where we have developed and where we are going 30,000 years ahead. But the ideas are very contemporary and very today. Those questions arise for us today. I think that's the joy of actually being part of something like this.
Your Foundation is a cult.
It's so interesting that now Salvor and Gail are invested in the new mission, which is very clear now that they're moving towards creating the second Foundation, which is a pivotal point in the story. So I know, what can we expect from this dynamics? What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic between Salvor and Gale. I mean, they're practically strangers, yet there's a familiarity there, obviously. It's like, you know, when you meet a relative or a cousin and you've never met them, but you know you're related, and you just instantly have things in common, or, you know, feel love towards them, but you don't really know what to do with it. So we'll explore that kind of relationship as we go through the season, as you've seen. And it gives us some really interesting moments, some lovely chances to really dive deep into their relationship, but also the vulnerabilities that it brings up and the strengths that it brings out as well.
I'm your daughter.
But do you think that being young, being not as hardened as you mentioned, is that, and having all this pressure upon him, do you think that is like the spark of rebellion that always you can kind of see in him?
That's a good question. I feel like, particularly with season 2, from the outset, all of the Cleons are slightly nervy, because after season 1, we realized that the Genetic Dynasty is faltering slightly. And even though they're all meant to be acting as a really tight unit of 3 or 4, the cracks are starting to show. And so I think, all of them, even though they're all saying they're all acting in the interest of Empire, I think from the moment season 2 opens, it's kind of every man for himself, because it can very easily turn into a bloodbath.
I love, Laura, that, Demerzel has her finger on the pulse of the Empire, right? Being such an old character, being a robot, I love it too. And being a robot in the Isaac Asimov universe, I can't stop thinking about that she could be operating under the zeroth law. Will put her loyalty to the well-being of humanity, not precisely the Empire. So this mystery, how do you go into keeping all this mystery around her?
Well, I love that. Obviously, the writing is so clever and beautiful. And when you get further to season 2, we will dig into those to the rules and her programming. And I hope you feel satisfied. I won't give you spoilers. So that you watch it, but I love the fact about her that she has all that knowledge. Like, she's lived for 25,000 years. She's seen the humankind through everything, like the good and the bad, and she has all that inside her. She doesn't forget anything. And then kind of like just having that wisdom behind and operating silently and invisibly. I think that's kind of the power that she holds, that she doesn't like blabber, she doesn't show her emotions or everything. She just observes and knows and listens, and then smartly and gently does her big moves instead of the
monster. She's a monster.
I use my life to protect.
If you could like solve any problems or anything with the flick,
with an imperial flick of
right, with the imperial flick, what would that be?
Probably climate change. That would be the biggest one. That's the biggest thing for humanity these days.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Could you solve anything?
Right, could be a small thing. Don't.
Small thing. God. Maybe find it easier to get up in the morning. maybe if I could do that and
I love that.
To just spring out of bed. I lie in bed too long. So maybe if I could do that and just.
If I can do this, it's season 3, season 4, season 5.
Great. I'll take it.
Listen, Apple.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.